From the time of her birth, Melissa Gilbert was left to rot by her parent. But as fate would have it, it turned out to be the best thing to ever happen to her, as it set the foundation for her to have the kind of career that most people can only dream of. But then she started getting too ambitious, and that ambition led to her ultimate undoing, throwing away everything she had worked for all her life. But the question is there anything called overambition? And how did it destroy Melissa Gilbert in this case? Let's find out while showing you some of her rare photos. Melissa Ellen Gilbert's early childhood was quite rocky. Though things could have gone in any direction, she wound up with quite a decent outcome. See, she was born on May 8, 1964, to newly engaged parents by the names of David Darlington and Kathy Wood. Despite the fact that these two were to be married soon, they gave Melissa up for adoption. She could quite possibly have been lost in the foster care system, getting kicked from foster home to foster home until she wound up in the street. But as fate would have it, the very next day after she was put up for adoption, she was adopted by Paul Gilbert and his wife, Barbara Crane. Paul was a Hollywood actor and comedian. Barbara Crane was an actress and a dancer. Her father, Melissa's adoptive grandfather, had also been a writer and comedian. In addition to Melissa, the couple also adopted a son, Jonathan, who also went on to become an actor. For a time, the family was happy. However, when Melissa was only 6 years old, her parents divorced. Though this was such a sudden change for the once happy family, they all moved on. Melissa's mother remarried an attorney, Harold Abulis, with whom she had a biological daughter, Sarah, before they divorced. As for Paul Gilbert, well, he did not remarry. Young, rich, famous, and handsome, this was puzzling. It was only much later that the painful reason for this was revealed. Sarah went on to be an actress, adopting Paul Gilbert's last name even though she had no blood relationship with him at all. This was a move likely done to increase her association with her much more successful sister, Melissa. Well, as fate turned out, this move came to haunt her later. When Melissa was 11, she was told that her father had suddenly died from a stroke. Though she was devastated, she did not question this news. It wasn't until much later in life that she learned the true way in which he had died. He had been let down by his government and his country. The truth was, Paul was suffering from constant pain and heavy PTSD from his time in the American Army. World War II had taken its toll on him, and he was just unable to move on. On February 13, 1976, he decided to end it all by taking his own life. He could no longer endure the pain. Perhaps it was a kindness that the truth was kept from Melissa as a child. Perhaps it was a cruelty. In any case, the ugly truth finally came out, adding to the number of issues that Melissa had to deal with in her adult life. Coming from a family that was so well connected, Melissa had no trouble at all getting her start in the industry. Even as a child, she was already a talented actress and starred in many commercials. Between the 70s and the 90s, NBC was producing the 9th and final season of Little House on the Prairie. Upon auditioning with over 500 actresses for the part, Melissa won the role of Laura Ingalls Wilder. This was the role that made her famous and for which she is most recognized. As part of her role, Melissa had to work closely with the actor Michael Landon. Having attended school with Landon's daughter Leslie Landon, she grew quite close to the Landon family. They had a wonderful relationship both on and off camera. However, all of that fell apart when it was revealed that Michael Landon was having an affair with the show's young makeup artist, Cindy Clarico. To protect her image, Melissa withdrew from the Landon family. She also severed all ties with Michael. This iciness between them remained until 7 years after the completion of the show, when Melissa was 27 years old. She was approached by the Landon family, informing her that Michael was suffering from pancreatic cancer and was close to death. Emotional, Melissa immediately reconciled with him. She visited his home in Malibu, where she tended to him while he was bedridden. He died 1 week after this visit. However, when Melissa and her second husband, Bruce Boxleitner, gave birth to their son 4 years later, they named him Michael in honor of Michael London. While this was likely a move that Melissa made out of kindness, she would come to regret it later. In retrospect, it was not the best to name her kid after a man who was known for workplace impropriety of the worst kind, especially for someone who aspired to hold a position in public office. After Little House on the Prairie, Melissa continued to remain active in the industry. She appeared in a whole lot of TV shows and in some movies as well. One of her most iconic roles was as the voice of Batgirl in Batman, the animated series. For her work in TV, Melissa received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. her then fiancé, Rob Lowe, stood by her side as the star was unveiled. By the end of the 90s, Melissa had already achieved the kind of career that most people could only dream of. However, by the start of the 2000s, her huge ambition reared its head. In 2001, Melissa declared her interest to run for the presidency of the Screen Actors Guild. Her main opponent was Rhoda actress Valerie Harper. The first round of votes was incredibly contentious, calling for a revote. However, when the second vote was taken, Melissa beat Harper by 21,451 votes to her 12,613 votes. Harper had no other option but to concede defeat. After her 3-year term, Melissa was once again challenged for the SAG presidency, this time by veteran actor Kent McCord. Unfortunately for him, he lost, and Melissa was once again victorious. She gathered 50% of the votes, while McCord managed only 42%. Luckily for the next host of SAG president aspirants, Melissa announced she would not be running for a third term. Instead, she had her eyes set on a higher goal. It would take 10 years for this plan to materialize, and once it did, the spotlight fell on her in a more intrusive way than ever before. Acting in bits and pieces throughout the 2000s to the mid-2010s, Melissa suddenly declared her interest in running for public office. During the 2016 election, she had her eye on the seat of Michigan's 8th congressional district. Melissa's team was top-notch, putting on a great campaign. So much so that she won the Democratic primary. But from this point onward, things got a lot more difficult. Her political opponents began to dig into her life, searching for any dirty laundry with which they could discredit her. It was at this juncture that all the shadows of her past came back to haunt her. One of the main ways in which she was attacked was her outstanding tax debt. Based on official documents, she owed $360,000 in back federal taxes and $112,000 in California state taxes. Her opponent even went so far as to call her a tax cheat. If someone was failing to pay their state and federal taxes, how could they run for public office? To defend herself, Melissa stated that the outstanding tax debt was an outgrowth of her stalled acting career, the tough economy, and her expensive divorce. In fact, she went on to negotiate a repayment plan with the IRS. However, by then, the damage was done. Her integrity had been attacked, and it didn't stop there either. Digging further into Melissa's private life, her association with Michael Landon came to light, as did her father's death by self-termination. Of course, her father's death was a tragedy caused by the horrors of World War II. But what did that matter to the political opponents who wanted to use that as a point to hurt Melissa and discredit her? On top of all this, Melissa's struggles with drugs and alcohol also came to light. These were things she had publicly shared in her 2009 autobiography. However, her political opponents wielded them as weapons to discredit her. They wanted to create the impression that she was unfit for public office. All of this led to dropping out of the race in May 2016. Although she cited health issues, most people knew what the real reasoning was. She was a very capable person who had proved her skills over and over again. However, this time, she had flown too close to the sun and gotten burned in the worst way possible. Melissa has since appeared in a few roles since then. However, her once shining career has now been dimmed down to a glimmer. But hey, she's only 59 years old. Who knows? Maybe she will have a huge resurgence in her golden years. If you enjoyed this video, there's a good chance you'll also enjoy the one showing on your screen right now. Click, enjoy, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you on the next one.